Hello, I'm Luca De Giglio, and this is the Web3 in Travel podcast, where you can learn about crypto, blockchain, and how the new internet will change travel. Today, we are going to analyze Blockskye. It's written like block and sky and E at the end. Which is a blockchain for enterprise travel plus procurement website, project. I have to check out what procurement actually means. I'm not sure about that. And it's something close to or something similar to Arise, the one I analyzed in the previous episode. But it seems to be using actual blockchain. So before we go ahead with that, I came up with a metaphor. I was thinking, how can I explain DLTs? So decentralized ledger technologies, which is what Arise is using and many other companies use and will use, compared to blockchains. If you have listened to the previous episode, basically, the way Arise is using this technology is still using blocks, still using different computers holding the same ledger, so holding the same information and being synchronized with each other. But those blocks, so actually those nodes, so those computers are permissioned and private, meaning you can't be a node unless they accept you as a node. And nobody can actually read into these nodes unless they have permission, while blockchains are permissionless. It means anybody can be a node and they are public by default. Anybody can read on them. Now, the metaphor I came up with is with football. So last night I was watching this match, Portugal against Switzerland, 7-1. Sorry for the Swiss friends out there. Congrats to the Portuguese friends out there. So there was a stadium with, 60,000 people and then 22 people playing on the field. This is open. It's not permissionless. I mean, you can't go to the stadium unless you pay for it, but it's kind of permissionless because everybody can watch this match live from all over the world on a wide range of different devices. So everybody last night could read the state of the game. So it's permissionless in that sense. And it's open and it's public. Everybody could see the same thing. Now, imagine someone wanted to kind of game the system to give fake information about what was going on with the game. So Portugal strikes the first goal. Everybody sees this live on camera. This is this video is broadcasted through different websites, different TV channels, etc. But the source of truth is what's happening physically on the pitch. And there are 60,000 people looking at this at the same time. And they all agree. The ball went in. Now, I can't even remember the first goal. There were too many. I suppose it wasn't contentious. So basically, the goal was a goal. Nobody was complaining about offside or stuff. So the goal, the ball goes in. The referee confirms, validates that the goal is valid. And everybody knows that Portugal won and Switzerland 0. Now, how can you game this system? How can you go out and say 0-0 or 1-0 for Switzerland? Let's say you are North Korea and the game is North Korea against Portugal, and you don't want your people to know that Portugal won 7-1 against North Korea. How are you going to do that? Well, you could do this in North Korea if you have full control of the communications, the media, right? But it's really, really hard. And the rest of the world won't agree with your version of the truth. Because all it takes is one North Korean who is not there, is in another country, being able to communicate that actually the game was 7-1. So it becomes really expensive and hard to keep a different version of the truth or to keep the truth hidden from the masses, from everybody else, from everybody who has some stake into this game. This is the blockchain. There's many people looking at the blockchain at the same time, and they all agree on one truth. Now, what happens if I look at what's happening on Etherscan and I want to see if you sent me some tokens and Etherscan lies to me? Could happen, right? Etherscan is not the blockchain. It's a website which is reading the blockchain. Well, if Etherscan lies, there's a very easy way for me to verify that it's lying. First of all, it's not the only block explorer, so there are other websites reading the blockchain for me. Or I could have myself a node. I could connect to a different node or even download the whole blockchain. So I would have every single transaction since the beginning and I can verify them myself. You may have heard about don't trust, verify, which is in blockchains. You don't need to trust anybody. You can verify yourself. So don't go back and throw this opportunity away. Don't trust people. Don't trust systems. Just verify yourself. And this can be said in blockchains only because blockchains are open. Now, what is distributed ledger technology in the football context? Well, that would be a game played indoors where you can't go in and play and look at the game unless they accept you. And then there's 20 people who are the nodes who say, okay, it was 7-1. And everybody outside the stadium has to believe them. And they could justify this by saying, well, we don't want everybody to see that the players get sweaty or hurt themselves, or they have right to privacy. We don't want the players to be famous because then everybody will know they are rich and then they can go to their houses and steal money from them. Stuff like this. So privacy. That will be the reason why it's better to keep these games indoors and not open to the public. And the other reason could be, well, it's just easier. You don't need to accommodate 60,000 people, which is really hard. You need a big stadium, you need security, things can go wrong, it's expensive, etc., etc. Let's just do it closed doors, 20 people, cheaper, faster. We can do one match every 2 hours because it's easy to bring the players in and to bring the validators, so the spectators in. There's only 20 of them. And we don't need to empty a stadium of 60,000 people, clean it up, and bring 60,000 people more. That can be done only once a day. And there you go. The slow transactions per second of Bitcoin or Ethereum, they come from this logic. While DLTs can say, well, we can do 1,000 transactions per second. Who cares? It's easy and it's fast. Now, why do we do this in football? Well, because football is not about a single source of truth, etc. It's about having fun. It's about having people in the stadium. That's why we do this. Why do we bother with blockchains, which are expensive, they are slow, they are hard to do, instead of simply saying, okay, we have a few people we trust, they will tell us what the truth is? Well, it's because you can't trust people. You cannot really trust people at scale in the very long term, especially if there is money involved. The banker always ends up running away with the money. You will say, why? I trust banks. No, you don't trust banks. What you're trusting is the very heavy regulation, which had to be written in the decades and centuries to make sure that the banker doesn't run away with the money. And still the banker runs away with the money regularly because they capture the political system. So I don't need to repeat how many times banks actually run away with the money, right? Which doesn't mean they actually run away with physical money, but they kind of extract money in illegal ways from the bank itself. Like it happened a few years ago in Italy, when people who wanted to get a mortgage, they had to sign some papers, which actually meant they had to buy some stock of the bank, which was completely worthless. Or a bank here in Bulgaria a few years ago completely went belly up and people lost their money. Normal people lost their savings. And this happens all the time. We know that. Now, don't confuse trust in the banks with I trust the banks. You can trust the banks today to a certain degree because they are so encumbered by regulations that it's really hard for them to do harm. And still they manage to do it anyway. So when you tell me DLT, I go, okay, let's see the use case. Is the use case a specific niche or a small project where the trust, I can have enough trust in the players, specifically in the nodes, to know that this is going to work and the nodes are not going to do bad things, then it's a yes. If you tell me this is going to become the basic protocol of all the source of truth in the whole travel industry, and you have 20 nodes permissioned by someone, which could be the nodes themselves who vote on the next node getting in, or even worse, a specific company and saying, no, this cannot scale. So DLT is fine, but it cannot scale beyond a certain amount of, value basically controlled or volume based on it, right? This is my issue with DLTs. Nothing wrong with them, but they are not blockchains, so they are cheaper, they are easier to manage as a MySQL database would be. So they are something between a MySQL database and the blockchain, somewhere in between. And they're fine for certain use cases, and I don't think they're fine for other use cases. And again, the discussion is on the use case. Now, would football matches of the World Cup level, where there's a lot of people who really care about the match itself and the results, and the money involved is huge, would this be okay to make them kind of close doors and then somebody comes out at the end of the match and tells you what's happening? Or even during the match, they can do a live commentary, just audio. So they are playing inside and you hear the guy telling you what's happening. Would that be acceptable? Forget the fact that it wouldn't be as fun, but would it be acceptable to define who is the World Cup winner? No, right? We want more transparency on this. It's just too big not to be transparent. So maybe the question is, when does the business or the ecosystem that DLTs are securing become too big for DLTs themselves? When do they have actually to transition to an open blockchain? That's a question we can't answer right now, but that's a question we have to answer. We have to answer at a certain point. Okay, enough with the metaphor. I hope it's a useful metaphor. I mean, we need these things in our mind to understand what we're dealing with here. Okay, so Blockskye. I will start by listening again the panel, the one I analyzed, I reacted to. I gotta use this term if I want to be successful in YouTube. I reacted to a couple of episodes ago, and I'm gonna comment on that. So he starts saying that this company is actually doing something with blockchain in travel today. And he repeats that a few times because, as you know, there's not much going on, right, in Web3 in travel. And this company is actually doing something real. And he says they have 2,200 transactions a day and about $1 to $2 million in sales a day. And that's, again, for blockchain in travel, whatever they're doing. And we're going to discover it very soon. And then he says that in the future, he expects users, so end users, us booking travel, to book directly on different systems. He uses the word omni-channel, many channels, and basically describes a journey of a customer who books on an airline and then he books on the kiosk and etc. etc. I have to admit, this is not very clear to me. We are doing this already in a way. So maybe it's going to become clearer later. And he says, when you have all those people booking in different channels, how do you reconciliate everything? It's very complicated today with the API-based system. And then he goes on to say, well, we're going to have one source of truth. And he calls that, so I'm talking about Brooke Armstrong, the CEO, a cryptographic audit log, which is a series of transactions signed by the parties. So two questions arise here. Is it a blockchain? Why does he call it cryptographic audit log? Maybe it's just a different way to call it. It's actually a blockchain. It's this. And then signed by different parties. And when I hear sign, I think private keys. And when I hear private keys, I think, oh no, are you going to give a private key to a hotel? which brings us back to the problem of wallet penetration, where wallets as they are done today are hard. They are not going to be distributed enough among all the players, because giving a private key to many players probably makes more harm than good. But hopefully we find an answer a bit later when we go a bit more technical. And why I say this and why I went back to listen, maybe the answer is that, well, those keys do not hold money, so who is going to try to steal them? That could be a good answer. Okay, and then he goes on saying that basically every transaction, every information is going to be stored on the blockchain, and this becomes the single. Well, it doesn't use the word blockchain, to be honest, but then I already look at the website and they talk about blockchain. So maybe just they don't want to use this overused word. Anyway, he says basically a lot of data is going to be made available in this source of truth. And when I hear a lot of data in the context of blockchains, I go, how much data? Data is really, really, really expensive. I don't have the last numbers, and I talked about this in the past, but if you want to save a JPEG picture on the blockchain, it's going to cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars in gas. Blockchains, at least the ones, the EVM ones, the Ethereum and everything else, Bitcoin, are not meant to store data. That's why you store data on external systems like IPFS, for instance. So that's another question I hope I find the answer to, is where are you going to store this data? And if you're storing it on your own blockchain or on a specific blockchain which can handle a lot of data, the issue always is that your nodes cannot be cheap. You cannot have $1,000 computer running the blockchain. You cannot have a $2,000 computer running the blockchain. You need a $50,000 computer running the blockchain, which means you need a data center, which means you won't have thousands of validators. You're going to have 10, 20, 30, which means it's centralized, and we are back into something like Solana, for instance, which is often accused of this exact problem. Blockchains are easy if you have very powerful computers, but then they lose the property of decentralization. So the idea blockchain is the one which runs on smartphones. You can have a full node on your smartphone. This is impossible today. That's the questions which came to my mind. All right, and then he ends up his presentation in the panel, just a short presentation before the panel actually starts, saying that with blockchain technology, you are putting together payment and settlement. And we talked about this in the last, actually I was referring to what he said in the last episode. And so let's go to their website. So the title is Blockchain for Enterprise Travel Plus Procurement. And actually, it's blockchain. It didn't mention blockchain until the end of his presentation. So I was on the fence. No, it is blockchain, is on the first page. It's like this, the first word. Plus procurement. And procurement in this context is basically booking stuff, like booking places, all right? Procuring, like finding the hotel room, the flight, etc., etc. Then there's immediately a section about news, and let me read a few. So from Insight, probably magazine, the intersection of non-fungible tokens in retail with Blockskye CEO Brooke Armstrong. So that's an article. Then the Beat Live in 2019, what blockchain in corporate travel could mean for GDSs and TMCs. TMCs are travel management companies. ARC invests in travel industry blockchain developer Blockskye. This is from Airlines Reporting Corporation. Let me check so I don't forget how much they raised. Let's see. So the linked article is gone from the ARC Corp website. So if anybody from Blockskye is listening, you should probably remove that. It's an article from 2019, so it seems gone, but there are other articles where in January 2019, well, no, that's okay, it doesn't matter, a few years ago, they completed a blockchain proof of concept with United Airlines and Blockskye. So actually this website where the link to is the investors. That's what Crunchbase tells me. Airlines Reporting Corporation has done a Series A We don't know how much. Series A is usually a few $1,000,000. And looking at other articles which came out at the time of the investment, which is presumably April 2019, nobody's saying how much, but it doesn't really matter. They probably raised a few $1,000,000. And it's interesting that ARC, so the investors, is an industry leader in air travel distribution and intelligence, and it settled $94 billion in ticket transactions in 2018, which is big. And somewhere else, they say that the revenue of Blockskye is about $5 million. And again, I don't know if this is updated or not. Anyway, we know from Mr. Armstrong that they settle about $1 million, $2 million a day, which is not the revenue, of course, but they're moving that kind of money every day. So back to their website, a couple of more articles reporting this proof of concept with United Airlines. The articles linked are all of them except the last one from a few years ago. The first one I mentioned, the intersection of non-fungible tokens and retail with Blockskye, CEO Luca Armstrong, is from May 2022. Now let's go to the vision and platform. That's a paragraph, vision and platform. There's a paper airplane. Let's read that. The Blockskye platform provides inventory booking, payment, expense, authorization, and settlement solutions for enterprise travel. Oh yeah, by the way, in the panel, it was saying they are focusing on corporate buyers, I think he said. Anyway, on corporate. This is business to business stuff. So again, settlement solutions for enterprise travel and procurement enabled by blockchain. So blockchain, later we're going to see more about the blockchain itself. The Blockskye platform connects suppliers, buyers, and their users with blockchain technology to establish a single version of the truth across all touch points in the ecosystem. We understand that. We discussed it. We announced the Blockskye platform with 24/7, 365 industry-leading service. Blockskye believes that on-chain tokenized assets should be distributed among all actors. I couldn't get this from the panel. It was probably discussed. So they tokenize assets and they distribute them among the actors. Interesting. So travelers, buyers, suppliers, revenue accounting, expense, treasury. Everyone should have access to the same data at the same time. So I'm wondering here if the tokenized assets are actually valuable assets or it's information. So basically this information people need, all these players need to consolidate to understand what the situation is. Anyway, we'll see that. Today, enterprise travel and procurement relies on batched processes and file transfers that create mismatched records, confusion, and error. This is a bit the idea that there is no one place where everybody looks at it, and we discussed it in the last episode. We need one place. And they reply, they go on, we solve this with a secure, encrypted single version of the truth powered by blockchain. And now there's a very interesting, a couple of diagrams, the past and the future. The past, you have tried to visualize several blocks, right? One is the agent, one is GDS, one is ARC, one is credit card, one is the bank, calendar, hotel card, blah, blah, blah. And they're all interconnected with each other in different ways. There's arrows going right and left, etc., etc. The future, you have a rectangle with blockchain written into the middle of it, and many other boxes with stuff like GDS, OBT, Blockskye, supplier, calendar, settlement, account payable, expense system, reporting, TMC. So you have the blockchain in the middle, and all of them, all these other boxes pointing to the blockchain, not pointing to each other. So every box, let's say the hotel, well, there's no hotel here, there's, let's say the calendar is pointing to blockchain. And then everybody else who needs to know about the calendar looks at the blockchain. So nobody's asking the calendar any information because the calendar is giving the information to the blockchain. Okay, now this is interesting. Why? Because if you remove the text from all these boxes on both diagrams, and you just have the left diagram, which is several boxes with many different arrows going everywhere. That's how a blockchain looks like. Decentralized, peers talking to each other, and there's no central point because everyone is a central point because they all agree, they all have the same information, and they all agree that this information is valid. There's consensus on this. That's the past looks like the blockchain. The right is a big block in the middle and everybody asking information to the giving information and asking information to the big block in the center. This looks more centralized in a way, and it is. When I'm making a transaction on Ethereum, I'm kind of asking Ethereum. When I want to know how much money there is in an address on Ethereum or on Bitcoin, I'm asking Bitcoin. I'm asking the blockchain. The fact is that the blockchain itself is made of nodes. Now, why am I saying that? Because when we say we want one single source of truth, because things are easier and faster with one single source of truth, that single source of truth has to be decentralized, has to be made of thousands of different nodes which have the same information in the middle of it. So when you zoom in this box which shows blockchain, you should see thousands of boxes, not one monolithic box. So why am I saying that? If the blockchain is not decentralized, then you are centralizing even more than before. And then it was even better before, okay? Because try to fake the information on the left, on the past diagram. It's really hard. You can fake the information you create, but not the others. While if the information on the blockchain can be faked, then we have a big problem because the single source of truth is fake. So the focus on how decentralized that single source of truth is really, really important. And because we are really putting all our eggs in one basket with blockchain. If the blockchain is compromised, we are done. All right. So that's why I need to understand this blockchain Blocksky is using, what it is. So let's go ahead. So after saying that, I scroll down the page and actually it's finished. The website is finished. Let me see if I find something more about them, about the blockchain itself. So let's see what they tell us in the website. They tell us our team. So we have Brooke Armstrong. We have Michael Scher, co-founder, and Dave Zitter, COO, and a few other people. Actually, many people. A lot of people, maybe 17. I was reading somewhere, 20. And there you go. That's our team. What about advisors? A few advisors. I won't read the names. And then careers, and they're looking for people. They're looking for a travel counselor, workforce, service level manager, director of enterprise sales. News, it's the same articles I mentioned before. Vision and platform, we have seen it already. Okay, no, I need to see the blockchain. I need to know more about the blockchain. But there's nothing in the website. There's a LinkedIn link. Let's try that one. Okay, so 37 employees, Series A, nothing else. So let me go to the single source of truth for any crypto related stuff, which is Twitter. I'm joking, of course. But they have an account which hasn't been used for a long time. They had a few tweets in 2017, and the last one is from this year, where they say they are hiring in May 2020. Okay, no, I need more. Let's see YouTube. And not much on YouTube. The stuff from 3 years ago when they raised, and then this panel I commented on. Now, okay, let me try on the internet. So I found a white paper. It wasn't easy, and it's a collaboration between Blockskye and ATPCO, which is an airline software company. So let's have a look at it. And no, nothing. It's basically just a proof of concept, very short white paper about why blockchain makes sense in this context. There's not a date, or I can't see it. So I don't even know if this was written in 2018, 19, or this year, whatever. So Yeah, I won't look farther because I'm expecting that if you are a blockchain company and you're using blockchain for any reason, you show in your website the blockchain. So you tell me we have our own blockchain. There you go. You send me a link to a block explorer so I can look at the number of transactions and what's happening there. If you're using a public blockchain, you're using, I don't know, Ethereum or Polygon or whatever, you link me to your addresses, your smart contracts, or at least you tell me. Now, here Blockskye is basically not saying anything at all. So 2,200 transactions a day, but they are not shown somewhere. Now, is this an oversight? Maybe, hopefully. Is there any other reason they don't show us the blockchain? Maybe it's too technical. I don't know. So here's an open invitation to Blockskye to tell us what blockchain they're using, and please show it to us so we can look at it. I'm always assuming you've listened to 50 episodes of my podcast. You know everything. Maybe I should kind of simplify it sometimes. Like if I was analyzing Airbnb after 6 months since they started, I couldn't tell them, show me your database. I want to know. I want to see your transactions. I have to I have to trust them. And that's fine because I cannot expect them to show me the database. A blockchain company has a database, which is the blockchain, and that should be public. If it's not public, fine, tell us it's DLT, it's not public. But it should be explicit. At the bare minimum, tell us what blockchain you're using, and if the blockchain is private, tell us it's a private blockchain. But not saying anything, that's, I don't even know how to comment on that because I'm afraid I haven't found it. But again, it should be the first thing I see on the homepage. So I close it here. I'm not even inviting, like at the moment, Mr. Armstrong to come to the podcast because I want to first see the blockchain. I want to know about the blockchain. So once this answer is answered, then I would be happy to have a discussion. I think I'm making enemies in this industry, but what can I do? I analyze a project and I say what I see. I don't know how to do otherwise. Maybe I should analyze them before and decide whether to do a podcast on them or not, but that's the way I want to do it. I want to do it live, so I learn why I do it. So yeah, I'll close it here, and I hope to get an answer from Blockskye. Well, I'm back after a couple of minutes. I decided before publishing this to basically message them. I did it on LinkedIn, and now as I'm saying this, I realize I should send an email. I'm going to send an email too, giving them the chance to let me know more about the blockchain, and then conclude this episode after I have their reply, or I don't have a reply. So this is 8 days after what you've just heard. First of all, apologies. I realized I said once this answer is answered. Of course, it was once this question is answered. I hope I don't make too many mistakes like this in the podcast. So 8 days later, I have no reply to my email. My invitation in LinkedIn is still pending with Mr. Armstrong. My public comment in LinkedIn, in which I ask about the blockchain, has no reply. To be fair, Mr. Armstrong is not often on LinkedIn, but he was 2 days ago. And he was mentioning something interesting. I can't remember if I mentioned that, but they were hinting at a big cooperation, a big partnership. And it turns out this big partnership is with Kayak, which is huge. Now, unfortunately, the article linked is behind the paywall. You can only read a few paragraphs. But this is great. I mean, this is blockchain use, on the very big Web2 companies. So interesting. I'm going to really follow that. Again, everything depends on what the blockchain is and whatever. But let's give them the benefit of the doubt and assume this is a proper blockchain. And If it's so, well, great. Kayak is going to use blockchain apparently, so great news. All right, this is the end of today's episode. I really hope you enjoyed it. For more insights on Web3, follow me on Twitter at tripluca, TRIPLUCA, and see you next time.